Welcome to the next episode of Mod Bless America. Once again, David Slagle, welcome.
Thank you, Matty Boy.
Sam, glad to have you. The fearless research assistant. We're no longer allowed to mention he's from the land of ginger.
That's because you can't take the comment back. You're from the land
Well,
of bald.
I totally can't. I am from the land of bald, but that's obvious.
Hey, you're accepting of this episode. That's
I
good.
love it. We were talking about a variety of things at the end of the last show that it just made sense to continue.
Okay.
We have more to unpack. Not Husker Athletics, not NIL.
We do. I did say I want to mention the end of World War II was 80 years ago this weekend. I think that's sentinel in our country, don't you, Matt?
I agree. It's hard to believe that was 80 years.
Yeah.
You know, my grandfather, this is a sidebar story, but I remain fascinated by it. My grandfather was first generation dentist, had his clinic. It was the first in-home dental clinic in the state of Nebraska over on the southwest corner of 27th and Woodsdale, right next door to where our mutual friend Doug Gans grew up.
Sure.
The Ganses were immediately to the south. Grandfather connected the garage to the house, and then between that walkway, whatever you want to call it, that was where the clinic
Grandfather
was.
Peterson?
Grandfather Peterson. So here he is. He was born in 1900. In 1942, he is drafted. So he's 42 years old, wife, 2 kids, usual deal. He shuts up their dental practice, moves the entire family to Great Lakes Naval Station, and they're there all through the summer. And my mom tells a story of the 4 of them leaving Chicago by train for San Francisco, where he shipped out and was gone the rest of World War II.
So was he a dentist in
He was
World
a
War II?
dentist, which
Yeah.
and
Wow.
so
In Europe or
No,
Asia or
New Guinea.
New Guinea?
So they're down. He's stationed in New Guinea.
Where's
And,
New Guinea?
It's the South Pacific.
Okay.
So he comes out, and he and my grandmother had worked out some sort of a code whereby he could communicate certain things that would otherwise not get past the censors.
Mhm.
My grandmother had thrown out those letters long before I came along and might have had some interest in it. But he was sending her letters saying, send me everything on neurosurgery, because the Navy said, hey, you're a dentist. You're in charge of everything from the neck up, Dr. Peterson. So while they were on their way down to New Guinea, they were dorking around. They went from San Francisco to Pearl Harbor, and then from Pearl Harbor made the jump down to New Guinea. He spent the rest of the World War II in New Guinea. My grandmother was sending him textbooks on neurosurgery that he was having to study by candlelight, by sunlight, and some limited light, but they'd have blackouts. And when he came out in 1945, the back end of 1945, the Navy said, hey, you've done all this neurosurgery. Here's your certificate. You can go back and be in civilian life a practicing neurosurgeon. And he said, no, I've seen enough. I've done enough. I just want to go back and be a dentist.
So he became a dentist once again till the end of his life,
Correct.
End of his career.
Correct.
That's incredible.
Can you imagine at 42 years of old,
No.
42 years of age,
No.
packing up your livelihood, moving your family to Great Lakes Naval Station or any other, naval base or air base, what have you, and then shipping out? Well, then mom loves it. She tells a story that at that point she was 11 years old. So she was in grade school, but they got to miss the first 2 weeks of school, bringing the train back from San Francisco to start school there in the fall. And so while my grandfather was in transit down between Pearl Harbor and New Guinea, they did get strafed by Japanese fighters. And
Jeez.
at one point, because he was a doctor, he was a captain, which is a big deal in the Navy.
Mhm.
And making this long story short, he was the ranking officer, and it was hilarious. He didn't know north from south, east from west.
He was McHale's Navy.
He was McHale's Navy. He didn't know his head from his ass, and they were asking him directions. Thankfully, the XO was not. The executive officer was not wounded.
He was a sailor.
He was a sailor. So they made it to New Guinea and truck on down the road. But pretty amazing. And again, I won't speak for anyone else, but at 42 years of age,
Yeah.
the last thing the United States of America would need is me trying to be defending the motherland.
That's probably one of thousands of stories somewhere. So my family has a little bit of story. My father, who was in World War II, he enlisted when he graduated from high school in 1942. His 2 brothers, who were older, they did not enlist. They waited to be drafted. So my father enlisted in the Navy. My uncles, both of them, got drafted. One went into the Army, one into the Army Air Corps.
Oh.
And
before we called it the Air Force.
Before they called it the Air Force.
Right.
So one was in, and so my grandparents had 3 sons. They were all in different areas of the world. One uncle was in he was in the Philippines.
Oh,
my
boy.
dad was in Asia, in the Asian Pacific on a tanker ship, and my other uncle was in the Air Force, and he was on a bomber, and he
Wow.
got shot down over the raids over Berlin, and he got shot down, and he was a POW for 14 months.
Oh boy.
Your grandfather?
My uncle.
His uncle.
My uncle.
Wow.
So my uncle was a POW for, and I actually have all of the letters that his parents wrote him when he was a POW, and they went through the Red Cross. So he got liberated, and when we won the war in Europe. But the interesting part is growing up is so I had my father, and then my father was in the Naval Reserves, and he had to go back to Korea. So he served in World War II and Korea. So my father never once talked about anything in the service. Zero. No war buddies, no war stories, nothing. My Uncle William, Uncle Bill, he talked a little bit about, he was an accountant and a banker. So he ran the commissary. So he talked about the commissary on how everybody wanted Coca-Colas and cigarettes. Now the other uncle, I was told by my father, never, ever, ever ask Charlie, the one who got shot down, about his experience in World War II because he was POW.
Wow.
So my brother and I were forbidden to talk to Charlie about that. So consequently, three people who were really influential in my life, I never learned anything about World War II except my uncle Charlie, who got shot down, lived to be 99.
Jeez.
And during the end of his life, he shared some stories with me about his POW experience, and grateful that he shared them to me and my brother. But my point is, so many of that generation didn't want to talk about it.
No,
they put it behind them. They compartmentalized it, and they went on to build, their life.
Right.
And America, as we know it, through the 50s, 60s, 70s, became business people, entrepreneurs, whatever you might say. So it's a big part of my life, but it's not a big part of my life for different reasons.
That's just like, I can't imagine what it's like to be at war. You're gone for, I don't know, a few years, but then you come back and just everything's different, and you just miss 3 years of
my dad
what society's like.
So think about the age. So your grandfather was 42. My dad was 18. He graduated from high school and immediately enlisted and went off to, basic training in the Navy, and then went off to the Asian Pacific at 18. The other two uncles one was 22, one was 26, and they got drafted. So interrupted. So you talk about interrupting college and everything, and it just interrupts your life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and back then, I mean, none of us have lived through a time in America. And I remember in particular, right after the World Trade Center quasi bombing, the airplanes flying into the World Trade Center.
Right.
We obviously, as a country, went to war against, the Taliban and all of that. And the interesting part to me is, if you remember George W. Bush saying, Americans go out and shop. It was not a full-on war experience like we had. And I think the last time we had that was World War II, where everybody was buying war bonds. They had victory gardens. You had rationed fuel, rationed tire. It was a whole different, truly a global world war,
have some
which is double entendre. Matt. Do you really?
Yeah, I do.
You have what?
I think my mom,
the war bonds, you bought them to support the war. So the war was tremendously expensive. So the taxation rate, Mr. Accountant here would know this, but during the late 50s and the 60s, if you made a certain amount of money, your taxation rate, federal taxation rate, was 90%.
Highest marginal rates.
Highest marginal rate was up to 90%.
90%.
Yes.
Which is funny. When the 13th Amendment, which is where the grant or the conferral of power for taxation occurred, that started back in the teens. And it was this huge source of pride. If you made enough money, you got to pay taxes. People kind of strut around, or in Sam's case, they'd kind of pad
40, 50,
around.
60% of your income was paid to federal. They were paying for the war. Jeez. Then you pivot forward, and after the war, we had the Marshall Plan.
Yes.
Which basically we were an isolation nation, until World War II. World War II thrust us into the war, and then after that, we decided that we're going to thwart communism, and we're also going to rebuild what the Allied forces and us destroyed. So we spent in 1945 $50. We spent multi-billions, maybe up to 15 billion to rebuild Europe. Some were grants, some were loans.
Right.
Most of it was given. And so we had to pay for all that. A, we had to pay for the war effort. B, we had to pay to rebuild what we said we were going to do. So we got it. That's really how the United States became a superpower.
Yes.
Is the Marshall Plan. I mean, we got out of isolationism and we rebuilt the world.
We projected American power.
Then the Truman Doctrine, that we thwarted communism all over the world. We would fund and help any country that was faced with communism. So it was a pivotal time before we were all born.
Oh yeah.
But it led to the Cold War, which Matt and I lived through as young people. So it was there was a lot of ripple effect from World War II.
I can't imagine what like my life would be like if there's a war. I can't even picture it. What was it like for you guys?
I don't think those guys thought about it. And again, a little bit of my family, my uncles and my father, they just went about their lives and they tried to forget the best they could, and they built their families and their careers and whatever they could.
Yeah.
And I don't think they dwelled on it too much. That's why it's called the Greatest Generation, because they did what their duty was if they didn't lose their life, and then they went and built what America is, quite frankly, what it is
today. It is today.
Yeah. So
well, and in fact, they would call it the silent generation.
Yes.
You know, it was post-depression, pre-World War II.
It was the silent generation.
You know, and that's the ones that are still alive. They don't talk about it.
No.
But that's a broad brush.
So toast to the end 80 years ago.
80 years ago.
The last
cheers and spirit.
Too bad, Sam. You're out. No drinking on screen.
No drinking.
We had that whole deal.
Okay.
Your mother called. Didn't want that going on. Plus, it'd be illegal.
So we unpacked World War II, all of the post-world, the Cold War. Now what, Matt? I
got something I want to ask your guys' thoughts on. What about the Putin and Trump meeting? What are your guys' thoughts?
Kind of a big nothing burger.
I know it doesn't.
There was a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, I mean, from what and Trump kind of set it up. He said days before, he said, I want to get to the second meeting. So I think he had an inkling, don't you?
Oh, he had to. I mean, Putin is infamous for all of the gamesmanship and everything else. I will say
the flyover
was a thing of beauty. You can say whatever you want about Donald Trump. You cannot take away from him that he really knows how to poke people's buttons. Holy buckets. Can you imagine standing there and having that B-2 go flying over you?
So I think it was, I'm not surprised by the outcome at all.
No.
If he can get a second meeting. Now Zelensky's meeting with Trump tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow in DC.
And he wants to meet with Putin. So, he's the odd man out in this deal.
Well, he didn't help himself out too much when he started haranguing those guys in the White House.
Not at all.
That he's still, I think, probably paying a little homage.
Yeah.
That was something.
Yeah, he is odd man out. So kind of a nothing burger. I don't think, given the tea leaves that Trump was showing prior to the meeting, I think he knew what was not going to happen, and his objective was to get a second meeting. So I don't know if that was attained or not. Do you?
I think it is in the proverbial works, but no, there was nothing agreed upon when they left.
So why is it that the United States is always the country? Like, why is it Trump that's always meeting with Putin and Zelensky? Why not?
Back to that,
we're just the powerhouse.
We're the back to that Marshall Plan. We came out isolated. We proclaimed ourselves after World War II the superpower in the world.
Yeah,
and we have lived up to that mantra since 1945. And
but we had the villain of the Soviets, that also claimed they were a superpower.
They did,
and ultimately,
which created the Cold War. Have you heard of the Cold War?
Yep.
And if you understand, so. When I was a kid, I lived next to in Lincoln, Nebraska, not too far from where Matt's grandfather's practice was. There's a building called Irving Junior High. Now it's Irving Middle School. It's on 20th and Van Dorn, and there's a big siren on there. And next to it, to a little bit to the west in Van Dorn Park, was a
ammo dump.
Shelter.
It was an ammo dump too,
it was,
and it's still there.
But it was a fallout shelter.
Right.
built during the 50s, and evidently it had provisions and capacity for oxygen, etc. So every day at 5 o'clock when I was a kid,
they just practice that siren so you knew what it sounded
siren,
like.
so it would go off to make sure that it was operational.
Right.
Yeah. So that was during the 60s.
We still do that every Wednesday at 10:15.
Yeah.
The civil defense systems.
Yeah.
But do you remember the drills in school?
Yeah, I do.
You had to go down into wherever was a safe space in school. Yes. And my favorite was climb under your desk so that when the nuclear bomb fell, you were in a better position for us to bury your ass because it was all dust.
What I remember more, though, in school was the whole space program. And that was a big deal.
That was a huge deal.
That was a big deal. You're a little younger than I, but as it ascended up through the 60s and into the early 70s, we would wheel the TV in and we would watch the spacecraft take off, whether it be Mercury or Gemini. And
obviously
it was
Apollo.
Different time. Sam,
I remember my parents waking me up when they landed the lunar module on the moon and did the first moonwalk. You know, literally, like, you got to get up. I didn't really know per se. I remember thinking it was cool, but I didn't really know what was going on. Like, this is history. You've got to see it.
I was on vacation. I was in Boulder, Colorado. We were on vacation. Yep. July 20th, 1969.
Yep.
You guys have seen much more cooler things than I have in my lifetime. There's been nothing that's happened in my lifetime. It seems
so I like to say that.
When were you born, Sam?
2005.
No, you haven't seen
after 9/11.
No, after.
So it was post 9/11.
Even my brother wasn't.
You know, I hope you don't have to see a lot of things. We've seen some really critical.
We've seen great things, but we have seen horrible things.
You know, the assassinations, all the assassinations in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, John F. Kennedy. Those really changed the complexion of the country.
The Trump attempt. That would have been something.
That was unbelievable.
By the grace of God.
I happen to be watching that live.
I did too, live.
I saw it's the right ear, and he kind of goes like this. And
yes.
All the blood comes away. And
that was just nuts. And I feel like I watched like videos on that for hours that day. It just was so interesting.
I will say during the 60s and 70s, really, I think it was stagnation from the standpoint. If you think about now, what I will say, what you've lived through is an explosion in technology.
Oh, yeah.
And we have had a quantum leap in technology like you can't believe.
Unbelievable.
So all of the bright minds, all of the brilliant minds, all of the Steve Jobs and all of the Bill Gates and all of the tech people who have really forged this road in the 60s specifically work for NASA or they work for the Department of Defense.
Yeah.
They took the best and the brightest from all of the biggest schools and they hired them for the US government or for NASA because we desperately wanted to beat Russia to the moon because it was a challenge and it was a source, quite frankly, of national pride.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the war obviously
it was viewed also possibly as national defense. Remember, I wasn't born yet, but when the Russians launched Sputnik and beat the U.S. to having the first spaceship, that was absolutely, I mean, America went crazy.
They went wild. So that's when John F. Kennedy got in the White House in 1960 and declared that we're going to be the first man on the moon. So it was almost just a race.
And we did it. We did it.
We did it. Have you ever seen the movie Numbers?
Numbers. Is that
have
you ought to
seen
watch
the movie
that?
Numbers?
That.
Have you?
That's
about
the
three ladies of color who are mathematicians who work for NASA.
I actually watched that in high school. My algebra class, we watched that.
You should
have. You ever tried a slide rule method of calculation? You're used to you have more computing capability on your phone than we had on a laptop 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So back then they didn't. So they used it all by. Can you imagine? We launched the man on the moon by a slide rule. And
what is the slide rule?
It's.
I mean, we got to start there. I don't know what that is.
It's literally
wait, Slags. Hang on. A question like that, we got to toast ourselves again.
Yeah.
Cheers.
This is.
It is. So you've heard obviously of an abacus.
Who's benefiting more, us or him?
Well, I think we're educating Sam.
Abacus.
Do you know what an abacus is?
You don't know what an abacus? You're going to be an accountant?
Okay, if I look it up, I'll know what it is. How do you spell that?
ABACUS.
Abacus. Look up slide rule as well.
Look up slide rule.
Get a picture. Go to AI, Perplexity or something, and look up a picture of a slide rule.
I remember Frosty and Sue's having them.
Oh yeah.
And I'd dink around.
Abacus. Okay, yes, I know what that is. Now that I see the picture.
All right, so now look up the image of a slide rule.
So Matt, when you were in college, it was with the late '80s. Computers weren't? Did you go to computer classes? Did you have the punch cards, the check cards? Did you do the Fortran and COBOL?
I did not do Fortran or COBOL. We did DOS. Disk operating system. You did?
Okay.
And we had to do programming.
That was way advanced. So when I was in college, we took computer programming, which nobody knew what a goddamn computer was back then. But we had to code these cards. And there was 2 languages for computer. It was COBOL and Fortran.
COBOL.
And they would have to, they were literally dots on a
card. On
a card, I'm going to say 7 by 3. And you'd slide it into this, and it would read these dots. Hanging chits.
Yeah. Hanging chads?
Yeah, hanging chads.
Oh God, we're back to the 2000 election.
Yeah, they were. They would dot these cards, and that would read this code. And that's how the computer read the code. And there were 2 languages. And then
a foreign language
then floppy disk came along.
Then the floppy disk.
DOS.
So
I have seen the slide rule. If you put it in front of me, I could
look up DOS.
Look up DOS. DOS. Disk operating system. So the funny part, I remember we had to do, what was it, man? Minitab. We had a securities analysis class, and the software program was called Minitab. And you had to go to the Wall Street Journal and enter all of this data for days on end for whatever stocks you were looking at. You got a number of years worth of data. So to say there's 200 trading days in a year, you went back 6 years, for example, 5 years, you'd have 1,000 to 1,200 data points, and you'd plug those in. And then through this Minitab program, which everybody thought was so wonderful, the professors all did, you would project forward what you thought might happen with the stock price. And we would.
How did you project it?
Well,
based on historical average?
You were trying to project it forward based on historical. Obviously, you had certain assumptions, but remember this.
No algorithms
back then.
Right?
There were no algorithms. The best part, though, was you had to use a terminal. Wasn't even your own computer. You connected to the university terminal or computer through your terminal. You did your data and all that, but then you had to run your ass over to the computing center and pick up the old. They were tractor fed printouts, and they were the white and green paper. They were super wide.
Oh yeah.
And they would just stack them up. And I mean,
so that was coming off. And when I first started at Cisco, we had an AS400. Have you ever heard that?
Oh yeah.
AS400. And we used that big barred paper, and it had the
tractor feet on the side.
Yep. And you could tear it off. Yeah, it was about probably 14 inches.
14 inches wide. And, and each page was probably 12 inches, maybe 10. But then we went, and I remember when I started fresh out of law school, pink. I was almost as pink behind my ears as Sam's goddamn hair. And we went from a 286 to a 386.
Oh. And
that was huge. So the 286, we called them luggables. And the 386, it would fit on a laptop. You had to, dang near get a new shoulder to put on because they were heavy, but they were nothing like the 2. I mean, it was just, again, another quantum leap forward. And you thought you were literally cooking with gas, having that 386.
I think about, Sam, you mentioned how much you haven't seen, but in my opinion, how far your generation has seen and come.
Yeah.
So I think about 20 years from now, and what technology will be. And it quite frankly excites me.
It seems like it's going to come from AI.
What's that?
It seems like it's going to come from AI.
Well, I'm talking about driverless cars.
Oh yeah.
I'm talking about I'm talking about that.
Well, think of medical technologies.
Yeah.
Think of pharmacological technologies. Yeah. It's incredible.
And it will help society so much. Now, there's a lot of people who will resist it and don't want it. And don't want the change, and quite frankly, if Matt's a car buff, if I never had to drive a car again, wouldn't bother me in the least.
Oh, I love to drive.
I know you do.
Almost as much as I love to fly.
If I never had to drive a car again, if I could get in and I could have a driverless car, that'd be
that's because
fine.
Often your wife drives, and it is a white knuckle experience.
I mean, so she drives it like she stole it.
She really does. It's unbelievable.
It's frightening. But anyway, I'm excited for the next 20 years. Hopefully, I get to see the end of that road. But I mean, there'll be so many advances in your lifetime. You say you miss a lot.
Oh my God.
You have no idea what you've experienced, and when you're our age, you'll look back at what you've experienced. True. Maybe not the world as we've seen it, as far as wars and experiences and conflicts, if you will.
Yeah.
But I think the trajectory of our society and the world society is significant.
Totally agree. I will say, going back to Sam's comment, I think back to my grandparents. They lived through the influenza, Spanish flu. Mm-hmm. They lived through 2 world wars, the advent of the nuclear bomb,
right,
and all profound acts of destruction.
Yep.
Some man-made, some nature-made, but all profound acts of destruction. By contrast, I think to my wife, whose mother died prematurely due to post-polio affliction, but the summer that Jonas Salk came out with the polio vaccine,
55,
sometime in there.
Yeah.
My mom and dad were both. My mom was in dental hygiene school at Michigan. My dad was in dental school at Michigan. And Jonas Salk came to Ann Arbor and was extolling the virtues of this. But you used to get polio from a freshwater lake.
Maybe one of the
Kristen's mom contracted it that summer when Jonas Salk was sharing the vaccine. But again, think about, you've probably been we've all been vaccinated against polio.
Yeah.
We almost had that disease eradicated.
So 2 things.
But think of that technological advance. Think about pasteurizing milk.
Right.
I mean, we have lived through incredible things.
Think about eradicating measles, chickenpox, polio. So stuff that you didn't, when we were youths, it was, there was a lot of kids who died.
Did you have chickenpox?
I did. When I was 20 years old.
Oh God. I had as a little kid. Did you have mumps?
I never had mumps. My brother did.
Oh, I remember my mom, there were a bunch of kids that had it. They exposed you and we all got it.
So you got
it, and then you built up a resistance.
So there's all these
let me tell you, it was
diseases
miserable.
When we were in the 60s and 70s. You're right, Matt. How about penicillin?
Penicillin.
What about COVID-19? I didn't even think about that.
How about what?
I lived through a pandemic, COVID-19.
I'm not sure I really agree that was a pandemic.
I think that was
what it considers to be a pandemic.
Well,
I think that was
on a percentage basis,
propaganda machine.
Yeah, the Spanish flu killed, as a percentage of the population, killed radically more people than COVID-19.
So let's define what there's a lot of people who died.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
During COVID-19, but they died with COVID, not from COVID.
Correct.
So there's a big distinction.
Yes.
Between
the Spanish flu
COVID
killed people
and with COVID.
This says that
what's your source?
People, the National Institutes of Health said about 50,000. No, there's more than 50,000 that died from COVID, weren't there?
With COVID or from COVID? 2 different things.
2 different things.
This says died of COVID. It says 50,000 and 32,000 people of Spanish flu.
Sam, you know what our distinction is between with COVID and of COVID, don't you?
Let's define it.
Okay. All right.
Good response.
So that's okay. So if you died from COVID, that means COVID was the
primary cause of death.
Primary cause of death.
Yeah.
If you died, so many death certificates that had stated that people died from COVID, but it was with COVID. But they might have had arterial sclerosis. They might have had heart disease. They might have had
cancer,
any
number
of
major
maladies,
life-ending afflictions.
And they did have COVID.
And by the way, there was an economic incentive to
Yes.
put on a death certificate because the hospital
hospitals.
got more money
Yes.
for someone dying from COVID than they did from regular causes like
Yes,
a heart attack. It's absolutely absurd.
So, did you know, Sam, that I was the 30th person in Lancaster County diagnosed with COVID?
Really?
Yes, I was. April.
Dave had to call me. Dave had to call me.
I did.
It was not his first call to tell someone he had a disease, but I was one of the ones later in his life to say, well, I got some bad news. We had a long conversation, catching up and all that. Oh, by the way, I'm calling to tell you I have COVID and you were exposed.
Yes.
So I had to.
Did you get it?
Now, Matt.
Not that time.
Was a little cavalier about it, but his wife, not so much.
No. In my defense, I get a call from Sleggs. Hey, we're coming over. We're going to have an out in the driveway picnic.
A COVID
I'm picking
drink.
up some
right.
Mad Mats
Oh,
at a restaurant, and I'm bringing one for you. Oh, okay. No social life. Excited. I go. They pull in. Like, we're coming into the driveway. We're going to social distance. Do all this. We both stick our arms out, so I'm getting my Mad Mat that he brought for me.
What is a Mad Mat?
Well, it's a wonderful cocktail. I can't believe you haven't had one. We'll come back to
alcoholic beverage.
Of course.
It is
I'm not 21, so how would I?
Oh, well, that's a good point. I'm glad we brought that up.
I'm glad you don't know.
I'm glad you don't know. Having said that, we have this long tentative reach.
Because we couldn't have.
At which point I'm having my Mad Mat. I'm very excited about it. And then it comes to pass, number one, the promised hors d'oeuvres were gone because Dave and Peg ate them on the way over. And the promised Mad Mat was a fictional item because Dave drank that.
I drank it.
And he had another one, but he also neglected to say, well, here, have a swig. He'd already had a few swigs.
Had a swig from.
He'd had a few swigs out of it. So I'm going to defend myself. That was not me being cavalier. It was Sleggs forgetting a couple of important things because then we had to run in and make our own hors d'oeuvres, bring them back out and share them.
Back then,
the non-COVID house.
But we didn't know that COVID was not transmittable through saliva, anything else. So,
I mean, at one point they were telling us you could look at someone and give them COVID.
Might or might not have.
She was a little freaked out.
She was a little freaked out in the healthcare industry. I get that. So this whole unknown was the biggest thing. So the funny thing was I had to isolate. Okay. So
when was this?
This was
2020.
April of 2020.
April.
Yep.
Because I think we got out of school March, end of March, middle of March.
Yeah, you probably got released. So long story short, I had been in 3 places. I'd been in San Diego, Palm Springs, and I'd been in Vail, Colorado. And actually, I got kicked off the mountain in Vail, Colorado because they closed it down.
Yes,
all the Asians.
They closed it all down because there were so many Asian guests.
So somewhere
and they were
along
convinced
the way,
they were importing it from Asia.
I got COVID. I gave it to my mother-in-law who got sick, and she lives in a different county, actually Odo County. Okay. And she went to the doctor, and they gave her a test. And they did contact tracing then, right? Where have you been? Who have you seen? Who have you been around? So she said, well, I've been around my daughter and my son-in-law. They called us. We told them where we'd been. We had to go in and take tests. So we had to drive through Bryan LGH at 40th
down here on
Pine Lake.
I thought you were down there on 27th. And
nope.
Because I was down there on 27th.
We had to do a drive-through. And they absolutely stuck this swab completely into your brain cell.
Oh my God!
I was tested a few times.
It was so you know what it's like.
Oh, it's
you weren't self-testing, were you, Sam?
So they had the hazmat suits on. My wife and I had to drive separate cars.
We did too.
Chris and I had to
drive separate cars.
They gave us scold my eyeball up there, and then we go home. Sunday morning, I get a call from the
health department,
Lancaster Health Department.
Hey, Roy,
remember it very well.
We got some bad news.
Is this David Slagle? I said, yes, it is.
As far as you know,
you did a test for the disease on Friday, and you were tested positive. I go, you are shitting me. I said, how about my wife? My wife's in the
we can't
room
tell you.
next door. She goes, Peggy Slagle? I go, yep. And she goes, she tested negative. I go, how can that be? I go, seriously. I go, what do we do? So we had the local health organization, Lancaster County, we had the Nebraska Health Organization, and we had the World Health Organization. All three had different protocol. All three had different protocol on how to handle isolation.
Wow. Really?
Yes. It was
my favorite. Dave was banished to his lower level. Peg stayed upstairs, and she took a picture. And there's Dave down there at the bottom, and she's literally flinging food to him to stay away from him.
I mean, there was the craziest things.
It was
we did that
so
too.
This is early April in 2020, which might have been one of the most pristine springs we've ever had.
The best spring in the history of Nebraska. It was gorgeous.
I was outside every single day.
Every day.
It was awesome.
Every day.
Right? So we live in a pretty big lot and a pretty big house, but I was confined to my lot lines, and I said, can I go on the bike path? Can I ride my bike? Can I walk? Can I go?
Oh, hell no.
Oh, no.
What?
No.
You didn't go outside?
No. I went outside, but I had to stay in my lot lines.
According to what?
According to the World Health Organization.
Are you serious?
I am serious.
That's kind of funny.
You know what's interesting? Let me just interject. So here we are 5 years
right,
and a few months after the whole COVID-19 outbreak, which coincidentally started basically in February of 2020.
Correct.
My timeline notwithstanding, I find it shocking that arguably one of the most prime pieces of fertilized real estate to produce all sorts of great creative works of art and fiction, even nonfiction, whether it be movies, books, podcasts, radio shows, take your pick. There's almost nothing. Think about it. I mean, we could do screenplays galore
about
COVID, whether they're fictionalized, whether they're serious.
Do you think it's coming? Do you think
I don't know.
A generation from now it will?
I mean, I can't imagine it wouldn't. Seriously, the three of us right now could write a screenplay about some sort of disease originating in a lab being sold as no. It was just some bad meat hanging in a market in a small in Wuhan and Wuhan,
lab.
Whatever. And it was actually, it was the market that these people were eating bats and all this garbage. It's crazy. It would literally be like Ian Fleming was alive again. We're writing the new generation of James Bond.
Don't you think a lot of the great Vietnam War movies came from, Saving Private Ryan and there was a litany of them.
There were, but there were some while it was
later.
There were, but there were a lot of them immediately on the heels or while it was going on. The Deer Slayer. Didn't they win an Academy Award for the Deer Slayer?
That was
that was before
after.
That was before 79.
Nope. That Deer
Sam,
Slayer.
when did the Deer Slayer win?
It was with Meryl Streep and
Christopher Walken and Robert De Niro.
Walken.
Win the what?
The Deer
Slayer. It's a movie.
When did they win?
When did they win the best picture?
Best picture.
77 or 79?
Let's see. 1978.
Oh,
okay.
I stand corrected.
The award ceremony took place in 1979, though.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't count.
No, I totally read that wrong. The film was released in 78. They won in 79. So 79 is correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
I don't disagree.
I knew I was in college.
But, think through, okay, that was then. We didn't have the connectivity then that we do now. Everybody waited around for Walter Cronkite or David Brinkley to report the news. Now it's 24/7.
So do you think that lack of what you described is politically motivated?
Good question. I don't know that I've got an answer.
Okay.
I will say I find it shocking that one of the most significant events, because bear in mind, not everybody got drafted to go to Vietnam.
Right. But
this was one of the biggest global events, I think, in my lifetime. Oh, yeah. I'd have to think a little more, but I think it was one of the biggest global events in my lifetime. And, we're shockingly bereft of any creativity and media arising out of it, regardless of which side of the political spectrum you're on. I would argue as a law student, it was a shocking overreach of governmental authority intruding upon basic civil liberties of Americans. And I'm sure for some people that's an unpopular opinion. Don't care. By the way, if you don't like this opinion, shut it off now because this is going to get worse.
That's probably the conservative side.
But the most shocking thing about what you described is the majority of Americans acquiesced.
You stole my thunder. America, think back to the revolution. America has always been protest. We've always been scrappy for generations. We were never going to be as impressive as Great Britain, which at the time ruled the waves, ruled Britannia, ruled the waves. The second part, though, is we fought a revolution because we didn't want taxation without representation. We didn't want our tea taxed. We wanted to be able to go and feed our family without being accused and killed for poaching on the king's ground. Everything we have done has been built on the back of civil unrest, civil disobedience, and the acquiescence during the COVID vaccine, the COVID years, shocks me. And by the way, I will take one step further. I'm embarrassed I did not stand up more for American civil liberties and rights.
Who would have thought that a mask, N95 or lesser of, would have become a symbol of the political divide in this country?
That's so sad. I never even did you guys ever use one of those?
Had to.
We had to. So if you travel by airplane, commercial airplane,
you had to.
Right. You absolutely had to have them.
Which was funny. I was coming back from England, and for a while, I mean, we were probably in a 7-hour flight. We were 3.5, 4 hours into it, halfway. I didn't even bother with the mask. The flight attendant comes by like, "Hey, you need your mask on." I'm like, okay. I was never compliant. So I had the thing, kind of like this. And he's like, no. You got to cover your nose and your chin and all this. And it was a basic surgical mask. My wife does anesthesia in a freestanding ambulatory surgery center, happens to be orthopedics. Those masks are intended to keep stuff from flying up out of the body into your face or out of your nose or mouth down into an open wound.
Correct.
It will not stop a virus. The N95, Kristen had to go. They put that thing on there, and her employer, they squirt this stuff that is very foul smelling to make sure it properly seals to your face. But even the N95 won't stop all viruses. And in particular, the COVID-19 virus was so small, even that wouldn't filter it out.
Particles.
But nonetheless, you got a mask. Go get tested. What a bunch of bullshit. Why go get tested? What does that do?
So Sam, we bought a house in Indian Wells, California, which is in the Coachella Valley, which is in the Palm Springs area, in July 2020. So if you know anything about the country, or if you know anything, what happened is the blue state, red state, right? Yep. So the blue state, California, basically shut down the entire.
I remember that.
The entire state. So we had to wear masks everywhere. In Home Depot, most of the businesses were closed. Restaurants were closed. They only had takeout. There was a few restaurants who, to your point, bucked the system and violated, and they said, we're allowing patrons in, but they shut the entire state down. Nobody could go eat in a restaurant. So grocery stores, big box stores, it was crazy, but we had to wear masks everywhere. It was all bullshit.
Totally agree. Well, unless Sam's going to edit it out. By the way, you can't edit, Sam. I'm
not taking a view on this, but
we are.
All right. Well, we just got a little cut off, so we're just going to end it here. We talked about a lot of things today. We hit on World War II. We hit on COVID-19, and then also the Trump and Putin meeting. So we hit on a lot of things. We didn't know where it was going to go, but with the 80th anniversary of World War II ending, just kind of went that way. But so this is actually another camera angle that we will be showing in our next episode. So we will have the camera on me and then the camera on Dave and Matt and any other guests that we have on. So a little sneak peek of what we'll see next week. Just wanted to remind you guys to like us and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and X, also Twitter. And then we also have Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube as our 3 streamings to be able to watch full episodes. So on YouTube, please subscribe and like those 2 things, especially liking our videos. Hit that thumbs up. Helps us tremendously get just outreach into other people. But let your friends know. Help us grow this fun podcast. And Dave and Matt, this was fun. Thanks for having me, Matt. Always appreciate being on here. It's a great time. And then we will be back next Sunday for our 7th episode. So thank you, everyone. And as Matt says, cheers.